Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today's video is about winter fishing, guys, and the baits that you need to be utilizing during the winter to improve your success rate. The winter months are really difficult times to fish. You're talking about tough conditions. So you've got the coldest water for the year. You're dealing with cold-blooded creatures in the fish. So their metabolism, their activity levels are all dropping as the water temps drop. And they just don't need to eat as much. So you could be fishing by fish that are just inactive. They may be eating, once a day or once a week. They just do not need to eat that much. So it's harder to get them to bite during that time frame. Now, the thing I'll say is if you do locate where they're at, you can generally get a couple of them to bite. They're going to be at their heaviest point of the year, and you have a really good shot at catching trophy fish for your area. So up in my neck of the woods, a 6-pound bass is really big. Down south, a 10-pounder is really big. But this is a great time to go out and catch yourself a new personal best. You do need to make sure that you are careful on the water and you're dressing appropriately. You got to consider the fact that if you're dealing with water temperatures that are 50 degrees or lower, if you fall in, guys, it could turn into a very serious situation quickly. So you want to take your safety precautions well out on the water. But you can, go out and have very good days as well if you put your time and your effort into trying to catch wintertime bass. So I've got here my 5 best baits for going out and catching wintertime bass. And all of these baits work regardless of species. They work for spotted bass, smallmouth, largemouth. It really doesn't matter. They work for all of them. And that's one of the reasons I like all these baits. I mean, this is pretty much every time I go out, these are the 5 rods I'll have on my deck. Now you can swap your favorite bait for, what the bait that I'm talking about. If you have a different, say, jerkbait, that's my first one is a jerkbait is always a killer wintertime bass bait. It's one of the best cold water baits that has ever been made. I mean, the jerkbait is a proven wintertime fishing bait. This is the new Berkeley Stunna. I did just get out and I was able to catch a couple of really big smallmouth using this in 41-degree water temperature, which to me is a really good feat considering the fact that generally the further, if you're talking right before ice up here in the North Country, the majority of fish are going to be deeper if you're talking smallmouth bass, and I was able to get a couple to come up and hit this bait out of 17 feet of water, even though the bait was only down 4 feet. So you can still trigger those fish into biting, and a jerkbait is a must. You got to have a jerkbait on. It's just one of those baits that if you do happen to see bait fish that are a little higher up in the water column, and it's the primary forage species for bass during the winter months. So whatever your favorite jerkbait is, you gotta have one tied on at all times during the winter months. Next up, guys, it's kind of along the same lines. It's a swim bait, but if I'm gonna throw one swim bait, why not throw multiple swim baits? An Alabama rig, guys, an umbrella rig is a phenomenal wintertime bass bait. It has been proven time and time again in the tournament circuits that occur in really late times of year or the very, very early spring periods. This bait is extremely difficult to beat and it catches giants. So, for me, you're talking about, well, depending where you're at, the more blades, the more arms, the more baits, the better. It changes everywhere you go. In Wisconsin, you're only allowed to have 3 baits. I think in Minnesota, you may only be able to have 1 hooked bait. So, it kind of goes wherever you're at. I think in Arkansas, you can have unlimited, and I've seen guys put like 3 or 4 umbrella rigs together. The point is, what you're doing is you're creating a school of bait fish, which again, like I said, is the primary forage species for fish during the winter. And you're drawing those fish to it because they're much more willing to go get a mouthful of bait versus chase one bait. They have a better, they know that their odds of feeding are better if there's more bait in that bait fish cloud. So an Alabama rig is a great way to go about it. You know, for me, I like throwing small boot tails on the Matt Steffen Guppy head by Dirty Jigs. I do like, this is a Frenzy, a small Frenzy umbrella rig. I personally like the smaller profile versus the big ones, but if you want to throw bigger baits, you're going to need something with a little bigger arms on it to spread the baits out a little bit more. But an umbrella rig is a killer wintertime bait. And I know a lot of you guys out there don't like throwing the umbrella rig or don't think it's a great bait, or a ethical bait, I should say. That's fine. We all have our opinion. If you don't want to throw multiple swim baits, throw one swim bait. So just grab yourself a Matt Steffen Guppy head, put on your favorite boot tail, and go have it. So those are the two baits that I like throwing that are not on the bottom. You know, the majority of the fish during the winter time are going to be near the bottom, but the jerkbait on the umbrella rig will draw those fish up off the bottom. So if I'm not throwing one of those two, I'm throwing a bottom bait, and I've got various ones that I like to throw. So for me, a blade bait like the Silver Buddy is an absolute must. It is probably another one of the most time-tested, proven wintertime baits. It works everywhere from fishing ultra deep water to throwing to the bank and working down 45-degree rock banks. Catches all the species. It's a very good wintertime bait, and it's just one that I have to have rigged up all the time. It's one of my favorites. A similar bait along those lines, so if I know that I've got a spot that's got fish on it, and you know I was able to say find them with a search bait like this blade bait, if I can get right above them and fish more vertical, that's when I like to get a Jigging Wrap. This is a Rapala Jigging Wrap, so it's just a heavy lead minnow, but this you can drop down right on top of them. Similar to the same way that you would work a jigging spoon, I just prefer throwing the Jigging Wrap. I think it is a really good bait that draws multiple strikes from fish, and I don't have to work it. I can work it in several different manners compared to a jigging spoon, which is really just kind of your straight jigging motion. This bait you can let glide, you can dead stick it. There's different things you can do to it to draw those strikes, and I really think the Jigging Wrap is a really good bait. So those are kind of my two heavy metal baits that I would definitely tend to lean on more during the winter months. And then the last one, again, is a time-tested, proven bottom bait. It's your football jig. You know, this is just the Dirty Jigs tour level football jig. It's a great wintertime bait because, again, those fish are setting up in their wintering areas, and you can throw this out there and work it ultra slow through those areas that those fish are sitting in, and they have a hard time resisting a football jig. For me, these 5 baits, guys, are pretty much it. I mean, I will definitely throw other ones. If I know I've gotten onto a good blade bait or Jigging Wrap bite, I'll pull out some other metal type baits. If I know the football jig bite is on, I'll put on 3 or 4 different football jigs, whether they're tiny little finesse ones up to, you know, big ones with big trailers attached. But these are the baits. These are the variations of baits that I'm going to have on. And then, you know, the same goes if I'm fishing higher up in the water column, we're talking our jerk baits and we're talking our swim baits. So that's it. Keep it simple during this time of year. These are time-tested, proven wintertime baits. So get out on the water, guys, dress warm, go out, drag some baits around nice and slow, and you got a shot at catching an absolute giant this time of year. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos coming out tomorrow.